Aaron J. Sharma, prisoner number 05026-748. Maiden name was Donald, born the 24th of April, 1974, is the only federal correctional officer ever sentenced to life for a crime she committed at work. A very dubious distinction indeed. She and her supervisor, Michael Paul Kennedy, prisoner number 13991-078, violated the civil rights of a prisoner with cruel and unusual punishment on February the 3rd, 2005. I have another video about a special investigative agent by the name of James Lee Baker that I personally knew, who was convicted of the same crime while he worked with me at USP Marion, where I was a correctional officer for 23 years, never did anything else. You could call me a guard if that's what you wanted. Unlike Mrs. Sharma, Mr. Baker was only given a few months of home confinement for slapping around a prisoner, while the actions of Ms. Sharma ended in the brutal murder of an inmate at the hands of another prisoner. Let me explain something that, like, all correctional officers know. Some inmates are prone to violence, even murder, while others are apt to be the victims. So it is murder to put a psychopath killer into the same cage as a drug pusher. Despite what most people think, drug pushers, for the most part, are on the wimpy scale of violent offenders in prison. Many of them are sent to the minimum security camp, that they could, if they wished, just walk away from. No real fences or anything. They're kept incarcerated on their own honor, if drug pushers have honor. Of course, some do walk away and they get an extra 5 years tacked onto their sentence, and then they get put into a place that has, like fences and stuff. While I was at Marion, we had a list of people who could only be out on recreation alone due to their, proclivity to kill anybody they were in a cage with. To put another prisoner in the same room alone with a guy like that is just plain murder. And every CO, correctional officer, guard, knows it. This is precisely what Ms. Sharman and her supervisor did. They took a whippy little drug pusher who thought he was a big man on the block, and they put him in with a killer in a maximum security unit. Dr. Marla Patterson wrote a book called As I Live and Breathe. It's not only informative, but believe it or not, it could actually be humorous as to some of the things that happened at USP Marion. It ain't all grim. She talks about the times that we were a supermax prison and then the change over to a sex offender unit. Now you have to ask yourself, what the hell would possess these two officers to do such a thing? Well, another fact about prison that may go unreported is women have a much harder time working as a guard than men do in an all-male prison environment. Yeah, I've heard all the propaganda that women have a calming effect on male prisoners. This is true with most of them, but there is a minority that has the opposite effect. They become agitated in the presence of women. I had a buddy who said it best. In prison, all women are thought of as love angels or hateful bitch fairies. Many times the inmates idolize her, and when she doesn't return his affection, he becomes violent. He lashes out at the subject of his former affection. This is one reason I believe that females have no place in a male prison. USP Marion was an all-male correctional staff until the late 1990s, but the women are equal in every respect finally caught up to us. Before you say something, I've seen a woman grabbed in a crotch by a male supermax inmate for the simple reason that she was a woman. She was none too pleased and didn't feel that her presence calmed that idiot. So what happened was the inmate by the name of Richard Allen Delano, prisoner number 0784-041, wanted a new blanket, and he pushed his old blanket through the food slop. Officer Sharma decided to push it back into his cell, and Delano grabbed Officer Sharma's arm when she put her arm through his food slot and into his cell, while pushing the blanket in. As Officer Sharma was being held by the arm and attempting to get free, she screamed, "You PC bitch," at Delano. Another prisoner, a guy by the name of James Williams, heard her yell, "You bitch, you're gonna die for that, you fucking rat." She knew that she was outing him. The whole tier went deathly quiet. Delano was now a marked man. She had a little bruising and pain in her arm with some scratches on her hand. She was sent home for the day. She said it was fine since, it was her husband's birthday and she'd rather be at home anyway. I mean, after all, it's a lot more fun to hang out with your husband at a birthday party than work in a maximum security prison unit. Now, way back when, the worst that would have happened to a prisoner that jerked in the arm of a correctional officer through a food slot is that he'd have got his arm broke for his infraction, I guess we'll call it. I was charged with misconduct for threatening an inmate with just that. But today, with all the cameras and the lawyers stalking my every step, it's not possible. So Sharma's supervisor, Kennedy, suggested that they put Delano in a cage with John, and I'll hope I get this right, Javilo the Animal McCullough. Prisoner number 0304063. The Animal, as I'm sure he was affectionately known, had assaulted all his previous cellies. Oh, did I forget to mention that he was convicted murderer and a member of the Aryan Brotherhood, the same prison gang responsible for more murders per capita than any prison gang in the entire history of the Bureau of Prisons? So to say that was like putting a kitten into a cage with a large dog who liked to kill cats isn't an understatement. Now, just to make sure, Delano got all busted up real good. Sharma egged the Animal on to give Delano a broken leg. Kennedy even gave him a pack of cigarettes as payment for the job well done. With a general ban on tobacco in federal facilities, cigarettes are like getting a stack of solid gold coins. All of this took place in the Hole, or segregated housing unit of USP 1 of the maximum security facilities at Coleman, Florida, which is, by the way, the largest federal complex of prisons in the entire nation. Kennedy and Sharma lied to the segregation lieutenant and told him that Delano had agreed to give up his one-man cell for an inmate suffering from AIDS. Delano had a single cell because he was a marked man. He was a known snitch. That was the reason he was in the hole to begin with. He was in protective custody for his own safety. We call it checking in. Now, just to make sure she didn't get caught, Sharma asked the Animal to wait for her days off to dish out her revenge. He waited 3 days till she had a long weekend. He beat Delano into a coma. Problem was, 13 days later, he died in the hospital without ever having woke up. So I guess you could say she had a permanently calming effect on him, but Sharma made sure that an orderly kept the Animal supplied with tobacco and extra ketchup packages to make alcohol for him for a job well done. They take the ketchup packages and ferment them and make hooch, as we call it. Naturally, all the prisoners knew what happened, couldn't wait to tell. There are no secrets in prison. Too many ears and eyes everywhere for anything to stay secret for long. There's also Rule 35. This is the policy of the BOP to reduce sentences of inmates who are cooperating witnesses. There's even a twist to the deal. The government waits until the trial is done before offering reductions under Rule 35. That way, the prisoner can truthfully testify that he wasn't offered anything for his testimony. A good defense attorney can make a lot of headway with a jury if she makes a big deal out of reducing a cooperating prisoner's sentence in return for favorable testimony. But we all know about it and how it's used. almost 20 inmates testified against those two officers, as well as FBI agents and the BOP criminal investigators who interviewed him. Sharma was asked 25 times if the investigators were lying when they said she confessed to her crime. Her perjury, when she denied the confession, allowed the judge to give her the life sentence under the guidelines. Sharma claimed the whole thing was a big misunderstanding. It was a joke. It was a joke that she told the animal to break Delano's leg. All three of them had a big laugh over the incident. No big deal. I can tell you that when I worked in a Supermax prison, I never joked about violence in any form. Violence in a Supermax prison is deadly serious and no joke. But her union chapter president said the charges against her were ridiculous, and she had his full support. Dozens of Coleman officers agreed with him. This is yet another reason the government and some of its employees do not want me to tell you these stories. I've been given more than one suggestion that it would be best if I just remain quiet. Today, the disgraced former Officer Kennedy is back on the streets, having served time until the 21st of August 2014 for his part in the murder. Sharma is reported to be at the Residential Reentry Management Field Office in Kansas City, Missouri. Now that's a fancy way of saying that she's in the Bureau's Offender Protection Program. After all, she owes some favors to the Aryan Brotherhood, and I bet the average prisoner wouldn't be too happy to hear about what she did to one of them. I've not found anything that says she divorced her husband, which was his name was, I'll try to say this right, Rajesh Sharma. Everybody just calls him Roger. Also a correctional officer. He continues to care for the couple's child. She was an Army brat growing up, for those that care. She filed a new appeal in June the 29th of 2018 in a bid to be released early. Inmate Delano, I have it on good authority, is still dead and he's not expected to recover. His identical twin brother Michael continues on in good health. The judge who sentenced Sharma to life in prison is a real hanging judge who continues to serve as a senior judge in the Middle District of Florida. She was born in 1943 in Canada. She's best known for giving out a 470-year sentence to one man and 845 years to another, both for financial crimes. The Aryan Brotherhood member John Havilio McCullough, known as the Animal, is only the 5th person nationwide sentenced to death under the Continuing Criminal Enterprise Codes of 1988. On June 4, 1991, he had 2 men shoot Jewel Leon Collins, an Oklahoma car salesman, to death. The intended victim was Claude Avery Rogers, who was Collins' boss, who owned the car dealership and pig farm. Rogers was suspected by a California cocaine cartel of ripping off a $2 million 100-kilo shipment of the illegal drug, cocaine. The funny part is the drugs were actually stolen by some other guy, James Donald Shue, and his prisoner number was 04267-062, and he was a truck driver who was released from custody on April the 12th, 1999. The drug cartel leader, Joseph Edward Arvizu, prisoner number 25014-077, wanted Rogers killed. Poor old Mr. Collins was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he was killed because of a mistaken identity. James Norwood Hutching, prisoner number 21711-149, is in FCI Butler and is a former Oklahoma cattle rancher. The gunman, Ramon Medina Molina, prisoner number 20010-148, died on October the 8th, 2016, and was Arvizu's cousin, and Thomas David Sanchez, prisoner number 36542-136, died September the 20th, 1996. There were 3 other pistoleros from Mexico involved in the murder plot. Cartel leader Arvizu was released on April the 17th, 2001. This incident could be an entire episode by itself. There were plans to kill everybody at the car dealership in one of those mass shooting attacks. You know, they were gonna do they did an attempted kidnapping, murder, you know, and you know, there was like hundreds of pigs involved, literal pigs. Yeah, 4-footed kind of pigs, you know what I mean? You know, kind with the curly tails. I have one final comment on this entire case. As much as I dislike the guy I knew who tried to beat the confession out of a prisoner, you know, at least he had the nuts to do the beating himself, unlike the two cowards that I just talked about. Now, if you liked this video, hit the like button, will you? Remember, Rule 35 is another exclusive thing you won't hear anywhere from the Bureau of Prisons, correctional officers, in public, any of that. It's kind of a secret. It's a open secret inside the Bureau, but outside the Bureau, it's not. It's completely secret. So here on my channel, you're going to hear the stuff that you're just not going to hear anywhere else. So if that ain't reason to subscribe, I don't know what is. Now, people ask me all the time to put in something about myself at the end. Okay. Met a guy yesterday from Venezuela. I said, hey man, I heard that there's all kinds of issues with food and people they're not eating in Venezuela. He's an illegal alien here in this little banana republic. And he told me, no, that's not true. There's plenty of food. People just don't have any money that they can use to buy the food. So that's why they're starving. It's not anyone's fault that they don't have the money. Yeah, okay, it's his logic, and that's why he's here to earn money to send it home to his family so that they can eat. All right, thanks for watching.